For all antennas fall into one of two categories: omnidirectional or directional. And you have to remember or keep in mind that a dBi gain rating just tells you what the signal is doing. So there's a direct correlation between an antenna that claims to be a directional with an X amount of gain and what that signal pattern then does. So a 8 dBi directional antenna has about a 60-degree radiation cone. So now if I take that up to my 14 dBi directional antenna, it goes down to 32. So by shrinking that radiation pattern, I'm able to reach out further. So the signal almost kind of, I like to say, it's like you're focusing in on a flashlight and you're allowing it to travel further. As opposed to an omnidirectional antenna that's more like a lamp and it's sending the signal all over. So what comes with most routers, because Netgear and Linksys, they don't know where you're going to put your router. It might be on the third floor or second floor. They send you a 0 to 2 dBi antenna, and that signal is more like a globe. So now when you get into a higher gain omnidirectional directional antenna, like a 7 dBi or a 9 dBi, that signal starts to squeeze down in order to reach further out. So just to jump into it quickly, if you're trying to use a directional antenna to get more signal in a certain area of your house, using a directional antenna that's very high gain is going to focus it almost like a laser beam into one direction. But you might want to actually use a lower gain antenna that's not as strong in order to kind of flood more signal left and right. So more is not always better in that case. As part of our business in our lab, we actually do a lot of free testing of what's on the market. So we have an anechoic chamber, which is basically a giant room that's soundproof and doesn't allow any kind of radio waves or sound waves or anything to penetrate. That allows us to test antennas anything from 600 to 600 megahertz all the way up to 6 gigahertz. So we buy all the Wi-Fi stuff on the market, test it, and we found that everything that comes as a stock antenna, mostly because of FCC regulations and also because of just I guess people trying to be cheap and make an extra buck, those stock antennas are never what they claim to be. Only in a few instances have they really been true, what we call true gain, and about half of what the dBi gain rating is advertised is really what it is for those guys. And it's also just because of marketing. A lot of people associate with dBi gain as being a measurement of potential reach and power of the antenna. But the stock antennas usually, they claim to be a certain gain, they're not, and then you end up finding that you can't reach that X amount more that you needed, and that's where I come in. So you start playing with stronger antennas that are directional, omnidirectional, and you're able to then realize the difference. It's almost night and day between your packet loss, and your measurements are just a lot better. You're able to focus on specific APs. Like if you're in an urban environment and you want to isolate a certain AP that you want to attack, for example, that's where directional high gain antennas come in and why they're so important.